went up there to volunteer and joined, and they sat down in front of this flight lieutenant. He looked at me, asked me my name and everything, and then politely he told me I could not join the Royal Canadian Air Force. And naturally I asked why, and he says, well, you are not a British subject.
Did you hit him?
No.
You should have.
No, at that time, you know, I was just a little Chinese kid born here in Windsor and raised here and run around the streets, and I went to work out at the airport at number 7 under Sid Hudnick, and all were there for a year and a half when a whole bunch of us decided to go join the Air Force. So I went downtown with everybody to volunteer, and I got up there and I was refused. And I got up and I decided to leave. And my brothers were all headed for Chatham to join the Army down there. So I went out on the road and started hitchhiking to Chatham. When I got to Chatham, well, I started to go out steady with a girl at that time too. And her name was Jean Hong. They had the restaurant up on Ottawa Street, the Sunnyside Cafe. And she was one of these ladies that just wouldn't take no. So she went down and argued with this flight lieutenant. And by the time I got to Chatham, there was a phone call waiting there for me to call home. And here was Jean, and says, Ed, come home and they're going to accept you. So I turned my back on the Army and came back and joined the Canadian Air Force. I had an interview. A flight sergeant interviewed me, and I remember that. What do you want to do, Airman? And I says, well, I want to be an aircraft mechanic, an aero engine mechanic. And he said, well, we don't need any more airplane mechanics. You should sign up and go as a GD. You know what that was, general duties, and I knew about that. And I knew, again, this is another discrimination remark, and I says, no, sir, I signed up to be an aero engine mechanic, and that's where I want to go. And you know, well, okay. And they sent me
Gene wasn't there to help you with that one, was she?
No. Well, I always was mechanically inclined, and that's what I wanted to be, because that's what I trained at Windsor Airport at number 7 as, and I served part of my apprenticeship there. I also volunteered to be what they call it,
Gunner's mate?
no, to be a guard.
Oh.
That way you
Ship's
wound up.
police.
Yeah, you wound up to be on A deck instead of down in steerage. We had a cabin, even though there was 16 of us in there.
How many would normally be in this cabin, Eddie?
Well, I guess for 2.
Did you sleep in shifts? Or?
Well, yes. Well, really, it was in the service I learned to sleep standing up. Now, and the past year, my family always, they catch me standing, leaning up against the wall, sound asleep. How can you do that? I said, well, I learned that journal. I've always been a kind of a scrounger. Is that a good word?
I think that's the word we all
scrounger,
use.
right?
Yeah,
So you had to learn to scrounge to survive. So we heard about when the tide comes in and the tide goes out, it leaves these big shells stranded there. And they were the, what do they call those? The scallops. And if you go down there early in the morning and can avoid all the mines and pick up 2 or 3, the butcher would give you a shilling a piece for them, and that's how you survive for the day.
Did you drink any of the English beer while you were there?
Well, I never was a beer drinker. I never did drink alcohol. I've been a teetotaler all my life. But I had to follow the crowd. And yes, I got drinking some of that warm beer. It didn't do nothing for me. Then they had all them big tanks there running around there. And then when they turned around, I remember they grind up the asphalt, and the I remember this particular elderly lady with her umbrella just there shaking and scolding the tank driver. Look what you're doing to our streets. Well, now come posting time, and the group I went overseas with, oh yeah, they got Leeming, York here, and all these different names, and they says, well, let's go to the YMCA. There was a big map there that's right from the ceiling to things, so we all got around it, and all my guys, all about 10 or 12 of them, here I am, here I am, here I am, and then I finally, I'm saying, where am I? Find the wick. So finally some guy says, oh, hey, Lee, there you are. Right up at the top of Scotland. I went up there all by myself. It had to be winter time.
Did you have a stove going?
Yes.
In this hut? It
Yes.
lasted till about 1 o'clock in the morning, then you froze your, what off the rest of the night?
Well, moving ahead a little bit, you talk about this, this creative mind of mine. I used to, when they do the oil changes, I used to salvage that oil. And then I came back and I worked out with a lot of copper pipes, a drip system, how to keep that fire going all night.
Geez, I wish you'd been in mine.
Well, you have to be a scrounger, I said, to
Yeah.
survive.
And an intelligence scrounger at that.
But the miracle is, we weren't blown up. And it was cold, and it was damp. And they insisted you go to work in your blues, and you can't move. And this war is going to go on forever until I can get me moving. So, but I finally sent home and got my leather jacket. They sent it to me, and I discarded my blues and put this jacket on, went to work. Walking back to the mess hall one day down the runway, oh my God, here comes all the big brass. The English ones.
The worst kind.
I walked by him, I gave him the salute, then I heard, "Airman, halt!" I halted, did a snappy turnaround, "Sir, you got an ID?" I always carry my ID. "What kind of uniform is this you're wearing?" "Well, I got real dressing down."